Well, distinguished visitors and friends, thanks so much for coming. It's certainly a pleasure to be here today, and it's really amazing to see the growth that we've had since last time. Who was here the first time? So we had a good number of repeat offenders, and this time we had, I think, approaching 350 people sign up this time. Last time we had 215 make reservations. So I think we'll see some ebb and flow during the day, and it's really an exciting thing to see everybody come together, because you get a sense of the community. We tend to work on our own little compartments, and bringing everybody together, you realize how much we are on the same team. I'd like to thank our speakers for coming down today. Each is an expert in their own area, and it's an honor to have them with us today. And feel free to engage them during the breaks. Also hope to see many of you on the stage as well. The intent here is to create a forum that people can present their own innovations or / crazy ideas in front of their peers and get feedback. Maybe a few years ahead of the pack, but maybe something that's picked up immediately. I do have to say that General Fogarty, when he mentioned he liked the idea of the Cyber Leader course, he was talking about the course. I don't expect to get a tab anytime soon. I don't want to leave a false impression. Also, I'd like to acknowledge that Colonel Raymond, who's really led this effort, and for those of you that have organized things, you know that what appears simple the day of actually required a tremendous amount of planning. So this is his second one, and it's also his final one because he's retiring this summer. So I thought we might give him a round of applause and thanks. I'd also like to thank the National Defense University for letting us use this great facility, Army Cyber Command, Cyber Center of Excellence, really the entire community that helped the Army Cyber Institute make today's event a reality. So getting to the meat of what I'd like to say is, doesn't it feel like we're living in historic times? I mean, I just keep coming back to just what's going on in the news, and you feel like we're really in the middle of a game-changing era as the world comes to grips with this fragile infrastructure which we're so dependent upon, and the asymmetric advantage people have that just individuals even can tip over things that are of critical national importance really to our way of lives. So for those of you that are students of history, and I'll admit that I was not. We have a couple of professionals in the audience. But I've been doing a lot of reading over the last several years just to look back at history, and I'd encourage, and I think many of you are doing the same. So I'd just like to point out Swede Mommsen. So who's familiar with Swede Mommsen? Anyone in the Navy? Submariners? So Swede Mommsen did groundbreaking work in submarine rescue, because up until his era, until his work, when a submarine went down, everyone on board died. And he developed rescue devices, rescue techniques that were game-changing and are in use today and have saved many lives. Billy Mitchell, and you probably have heard that name come up. He famously sunk a battleship to prove the capability of air power. I wonder who is I would argue that we have a Billy Mitchell sitting in the audience today, and you just have to decide who you are. Hopefully you can avoid the court-martial that Billy Mitchell received, but I think we've got that type of leadership and that type of game-changing talent in the room. We've got Leslie Groves, who brought together an unprecedented team of experts and from both the military and the academic communities as well as industry to solve an incredibly complex problem on a short time scale. We have William Moffett, who was the architect of naval aviation, and if you remember the iconic pictures of lighter-than-air airships, blimps over New York City, in early New York City, those were his efforts. Sadly, he died in a crash trying to prove that technology. We have the Tuskegee Airmen, who had to overcome incredible challenges, both cultural and institutional bias. We have George Patton, who was a superb supporter, a strong supporter of armor, as you might imagine. And I don't know if you're familiar with the story, but he developed a technology while at Fort Meade, I believe, where it was a tank, and had a bunch of senior leaders come in to see what the tank could do. And he asked if any of the senior leaders wanted to drive it put it through its paces, and none of them took him up on his offer. So he asked his wife on the spot, who is a kind soul apparently, if she would do it, and in a full length dress, goes down and drives the tank and put it through its paces. So it's good to have passion when proving new technologies. You can think of the code breakers of Bletchley Park, and their work changed the course of World War II. The list goes on, but the important takeaway, at least from my perspective, is when you read the history books, when you think about history, things look like a fait accompli. It looks pretty easy when read in the black and white of history. But as we're all living in color, you find out that it's incredibly complex. And if you read these stories, you'll hear that they have faced many of the challenges we face today. So we can draw strength from these lessons of our past and from each other as we try and go through this era to get this thing that is cyber right. I'm confident there'll be books written about you, and I look forward to that day. As you know, the threat to our nation, our democracy, and really the world is very severe. We have bad people in the world with the ability to do very, very damaging things to our country. For those that are it reminds me of the Garden of Eden story, and that once you bite from the apple, you learn about all the badness in the world, and we know of those things. And when you know that, then it's even more pressing. You know what the people who want to do us harm have the ability to do. But all's not lost. We've got a great team coming together. We have champions. We have champions in the Pentagon. We have champions on Capitol Hill. We have champions in the White House and across government and across our nation. We have to feed them the right ideas and give them the knowledge, insights, and actionable ideas that they can then take forward and make a difference. And when I say actionable, you just can't bring a problem. You have to, from my experience, as you bring these ideas forward, it's much better if they're able to actually do something. So trying to give these senior leaders the ability to take action is very powerful, and to follow on their initiatives. It's definitely a team sport. When you think about all the groups that are involved, the military, government, industry, the security community, and I would say the hacker community as well, the independent security researchers. They all come together to try and solve this problem of security. So helping build those bridges is critically important. There have been many recent accomplishments, and I'll start off with, I don't know if everyone's seen, but this is the Cyber Branch insignia, both officer and enlisted. That was a major change. These are the factory prototypes. I'll have them. You can't take them with you, okay? There's only one set. There's just a limited number right now, but soon they'll be available and you'll be able to order them. When you think about the momentum that's going now, it's incredibly significant and important, and we're all rowing, right? That trying to make this change happen. The acquisition community is doing a very hard look on how to build agile acquisition processes to build to bring on capabilities and technologies in a very agile way, because that's what our adversaries do. The Cyber Branch was created last fall. The Cyber Center of Excellence at Fort Gordon was created. We just chose 143 people for the Cyber Branch. Another VTIP message, I'm told, is coming out soon. We're going to have a panel likely in June to choose about another 150 or so. So tell your friends, now is the time to apply. If they're sitting on the sidelines, I wouldn't. I believe we're going to go to about 90%. So this is the time to apply. If you applied and it didn't happen the first time, apply again, because it's very difficult from a traditional military file to divine this attribute, this trait that is really required, this thing that is cyberness. Trying to find that from a traditional military file is difficult, and I'm told we have a survey to help flesh that out and provide more insight and let people's passion show through. There's experimentation ongoing now, exploring what cyber tactical or support for cyber support for core and below. I want to say tactical cyber, but that's not what we're allowed to call it. So it's cyber support for core and below. The idea is, how do we bring the capabilities of cyber operations to bear to help the operational force? The Army Cyber Institute was created, and again, the list goes on. So we're all involved with these efforts, and we need to get in and support them. We're really in a unique time in that we're setting the culture. 10 years from now, it'll be locked in stone, right? People will fall in on existing structures. You think of the Air Force. If you join the Air Force today, you're not going to change it, or you're just going to change it a little. But the freedom of maneuver we have right now is really unprecedented. People of all ranks are really creating this foundational culture. And again, I think it's an exciting time, and really it empowers all of us. Now, it's not an easy time, right? There are many challenges, but if you think of it, many of these challenges really and truly are opportunities. And I'd like to just run through some of those before I conclude. I believe we need to grow people better than ourselves. And as leaders, that's what we're constantly trying to do. And as a lieutenant, I served for then Major General Barry McCaffrey as a second lieutenant. And largely I was scared of him, but that's what second lieutenants, what generals do. But he was really, really good. He was the product of 30 years of continuously developmental experiences that grew a division commander without par. And right now, what we're building, at least in the Army, and I know in the other services, are professionals that are going to go through a 30-year career. And I think you all will be possess an unprecedented skill set after the end of those 30 years. So I think it's a very exciting time. But we need to understand that many of the people coming on will, by nature of we're coming at this from different backgrounds, the ones that are coming in this from the start, that they're going to have sometimes more experience than us in some ways, and we need to recognize that, and that's okay, and help develop and mentor them and help them understand the larger picture. We have to stay current. Moore's law is relentless, and technological change is relentless, and to stand still is to be left behind. We have to push the envelope. We have to learn the languages of the tribes with which we interact and respect their culture. We're crossing all sorts of boundaries here. When you deal with, even between different agencies within government, each group has their own language. When you speak to the legal community, we have to do our best to understand the language of the legal scholars or the legal community so we can best communicate. We can expect that in return if we take the action first. We have to respect the cultures. We're crossing many different cultures here. And most notably, I think, between the technical and the operational, the folks on the battlefield. We have to help educate our senior leaders. But from my experience, the senior leaders I've met have been very smart, and they get this. And what they really need is to be us to help provide the facts, the data that allow them to carry it forward. We have to learn from our senior leaders. They have a wealth of experience about how to actually make things happen inside the DoD that we have to learn from. We have to study our doctrine. And I normally would not say this because I proudly did not study doctrine for about 20 years because there are some people who fall into the camp. Like at Leavenworth, lightning would come from the sky if I said that out loud. But the last few years I've been very much a student of doctrine because I think there are a great many lessons learned, because the security community focuses on relatively low scale, small scale, protecting a system, protecting a network. What doctrine does is it scales up to fight how armies fight. And then we need to map that over and find ways to integrate with what we do. So there's a great many lessons learned from doctrine. We have to bring cyber to the operational force, because if we don't, no one else will. And we have to, and I'd encourage you to write down your ideas. You're going to get ideas. and to capture them, because it's very hard to generate good ideas, when put on the spot. But you'll be sitting, driving to work one day or something like that. I encourage you to capture those ideas. We also have to not be afraid to lead. Many of us, would rather be sitting at a keyboard doing, certain types of activities, often technical. We have to be willing to take one for the team and stand back and lead the force, because that's what we're asked to do. I think in this new era, tactical and technical proficiency takes an entirely new meaning as we seek to understand the operational domain that is cyberspace. I believe we should cultivate a hacker mindset or an adversarial mindset. And you see these people, right? And you probably somewhere in the room, when you walk in and you immediately say, ooh, this CyberTalks badge, I could forge one of these on my inkjet printer, right? Or when you look in, you're constantly probing a security system and thinking about how it could be attacked. Because by understanding how an adversary thinks, you can best defend against it. And ultimately, we all know that perfect security is impossible, and as we try to approach it, it becomes unusable. Who's had problems logging into their bank or a government system? I see a lot of head nodding. Sometimes it's on a good day. It's a good day when I can log into my own bank account. I have to say, what was my pet in 1972 or whatever? And oh, by the way, I actually don't use my real pet's names because databases are compromised, and I don't want, my one pet's name. So I have a different pet for every bank, and it's and that leads me to my next point. I believe we need to have a healthy degree of paranoia in what we do, not an unhealthy degree, but a healthy degree, to understand that oftentimes what a technology purports to do isn't what it is actually capable of doing. If something has a microphone or has a camera, then it might be wise to consider that those could be turned on or misused in some way, despite what the interface says. We have to be careful what we build because there's a famous quote from Jurassic Park where they created the dinosaurs, and that ultimately proved to be a bad idea. So we have to be careful of the technologies that we build. Oftentimes they leak, they spill, they create vulnerabilities unto themselves. So to wrap, it's really a pleasure. I mean, I think just to see everyone who, I think many of us know each other, and I would encourage you to take the time and meet others in the room, because we're all in this together. We want to get it right. And it's, again, just bringing back, I think it's a historic time. Appreciate you, everyone coming. Look forward to talking to you throughout the day, joining you for the social, MCPA social tonight. And with that, it's an honor and a privilege. Cheers.